to Sunrise, they were focusing on preparations and the plans, methods, equipments, technology that the Commission is deploying for these elections, because it is upon that basis that lots and lots of enthusiasm seems to be predicated. Well, joining us this morning to give us his perspective, Professor Lai Ulurode, who is a former National Commissioner with the Commission, with INEC. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Well, perhaps, yes, it's a new technology that we're going to use for general elections, for the first time. They use it in the States, 1 or 2 elections. But in terms of faith that people have in this, the optimism, the expectations, that would you advise, what would you advise? What, cautious optimism, or just go ahead and be outright optimistic? Because if the Commission is beating their chest, saying, no, with this one, a lot of things will go right. So how should we approach this?
Well, number one, nobody should feel any sense of trepidation. There should be no fear entertained when it comes to deploying technology to resolving election conundrum. Our electoral history has been one of very sad experiences. We've had challenges. We've had election marauders all over the places. And in navigating the next general election, which has a kind of the possibility of a very competitive election, we cannot afford to give room to doubts in the methodology that INEC is going to deploy. Now, before Jega, the era of Jega in 2010, it was all fiasco. Jega's regime in INEC resolved some of these election fiasco and challenges. And since the assumption of office of the current commission, you've seen accretion, you've seen improvement in the deployment of election technology into determining the winner. That will not leave anybody in doubt. So I think we cannot continue to do this. Before, it used to be the smart card reader. It had its own challenges. Now you have the bimodal verification and accreditation system. Before, we used to come in the morning to you identify whether your name is in the register, you get printed or whatever, you get a mark on your, then you go back, then you come back. You go away from the polling unit, stay around, then you come back. But the use of beavers in Anambra, in Osun, are shown clearly that there's no other way to go.
But there was a huge challenge in Anambra.
Of course, there are elections. Look, Brazil just completed its election. There are challenges. There will be challenges. Even in the US, the election that sent Trump away was challenged. So there will be challenges. You have to live with challenges. But what is important is the neutrality, the impartiality of the election umpire. I'm not sure anybody today can raise an issue as to the neutrality of the commission. Since the time of Jega, they definitely should have their own they will have their own political preferences and interests, but they will not allow that to interfere with the election process.
Do you think that understanding has gone deeper into perhaps politicians? Because when you hear them talk about structure, asking this party whether or not you have this or you have people to help you do this and that, one wonders because...
No politician will be happy that you try to refine your electoral infrastructure. No.
Yeah, but
they want loopholes to be.
I get that.
You see, before 2015,
yeah,
before the revolution that took place in 2013, where you had the merger of CPC, AD, and
CPC, ACN.
We couldn't have had a robust outing in 2015.
The merger of the ACN.
Yes, that was a big revolution for the country. Then you begin to define your elections in terms of ideological tendencies, not seriously speaking ideological, but at least you have two major parties and the rest of the parties. So the parties should know what to do. If you want to win an election, you should know what to do. If you are a small party, you go into an election, you already get your result.
No party wants to be described as small.
No, but what I'm saying is that, you see, that you have major tendencies, you have minor tendencies.
Indeed.
Except we are kidding ourselves. We know the direction in which the country has moved.
Of course. I just wanted to, well, first, I think congratulations are in order. Today is Prof's birthday.
But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It happens to be his last day in the
university. I'm taking my exit today.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Congratulations to you, sir. We wish you many more years in great health of mind and body. And thank you for your service to Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
But looking at, I mean, because the very first question which my colleague asked about how we should approach this, I was going to ask, you know, looking at the evolution of INEC, because I know that you're not just looking at this as somebody who's been on the inside. You have written about it as well, you know, our democratic experience, and I'm sure you might also be looking at it in that regard. There are those who think that, you know, we can introduce all of the technology that we like. If we do not change our attitude towards election, a lot of the technological innovations which we're bringing in might only serve to make us feel better or make us feel a little confident in the process, but not necessarily change the outcome. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, number one, elections, we have often said, is like a two-sided coin. One side of election planning, election administration is science. The other side is art. So election administrators have to be scientific because they have to follow procedure. It may not be exact. At the same time, they have to deploy discretion where it is necessary. If, for example, you go to an election as a presiding officer and somehow the technology was not working for you, the current methodology I understand INEC is deploying is that in every polling unit where you have up to 750 on the register, you deploy 1 beavers. Where you have more than that, you deploy 2. It's just to quicken the process. You see, time expenditure on elections since 2010 is going down. Before you go to it's a whole day affair.
Event.
Before. But now, you get there, the last election I participated, I didn't spend 5-10 minutes. It's done.
What election was that?
The election in Osun.
Okay, you participated?
Oh, I did, as an elector.
As a voter?
As a voter, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's very reassuring. That's good to note. But, you know, it doesn't...
So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that then, secondly, apart from getting your procedure right, science may go wrong. There's nothing unusual about that. Your phone disappoints you. Sometimes you want to get somebody. That's why you get 2 or 3, and so all of them can fail.
Professor should not disappoint us. We've spent a lot of money this time around, so there should be no such.
No.
Should be very, very
You have to wait. Spending money on election, having good elections, reducing the human agency in your election, improving the election infrastructure, securing the electoral process. Look, you have about 200,000, about 176 or thereabout polling units in the country. You will need to deploy security men and women to secure the polling unit for you. Is it not better than going to war? When crisis break out, look, 2020, was it 2011? The post-election violence in 2011. Many youth corps members were massacred, were killed in this country. Now, have you ever had that kind of thing now?
Well, we pray we never have it again.
Yes, and the only way you cannot have it is to do what? Is to improve on your election environment and making sure...
It's the environment precisely that I want you to address.
Yeah, the mindset, of course, the mindset of politicians, I don't think you can say their mindset is not shifting. At least they are submitting to this auditing by electors. Whether they like it or not, they've told them you cannot use hate language, you cannot be violent, you shouldn't want to defy the country in terms of its plurality. You must take Nigeria for what it is. We're a diverse country, and everybody must accommodate diversity if you want to go ahead as a nation. In America, when Trump tried to tamper with diversity, he was shown the exit gate. Anybody can be shown that gate, you know. So I think the power of the elector is increasing, in my own assessment. because every improvement in making sure that you reduce election tragedy is a plus for Nigeria. And that's what you should be hearing now. I was reassuring this morning when the president has said nobody is planning to do away with beavers. It's reassuring because every technology deployed in the right direction in managing election is a plus for this country. Because we must be certain, especially 2023, INEC cannot afford to go wrong. We cannot afford to make great mistakes. Otherwise, you set the country ablaze.
Indeed, especially now. I mean, people are also looking at the fact that a lot of when you look at the contestants, the front runners, especially when you look at where they're from, 4 different parts of the country, 4 distinct parts of the country. And, you know, people are a little, let's say, or analysts are a little worried about that. Do you share their concern?
No, I think we shouldn't be worried. We should be happy. Our elections are becoming more interesting. They are becoming issue-focused. I've listened to the presidential candidates of the APC. Is talking about specifics. This is what I'm going to do for you on the economy. That's a plus for the country. You are forcing contestants to think policy and not to think ethnic or think religion. Governance is key. To get your governance right, I'm sure. I don't think most Nigerians care so much about whether you have this plus this ticket or this is the combination. What people are looking for is governance. I want to be able to eat. I want to be able to go out and return to my house. I want to be able to predict my movement. I want to feel secured. So any government that gives that guarantee, to me, it doesn't matter. To me, where he or she comes from, what his religion is secondary. But at least I know I'll be able to practice my religion. Religion should be personal. It's not something that should be in the public domain. You know, we've had it before. So it doesn't matter the combination, whatever you have. But let's give Nigerians the best. Let the best person win this election. And I think we are moving in that direction. Of course, there are along the way, like M.K. Abiola once said, you cannot have a child without bloodshed. You have some splinters of blood here and there. But at the end of the day,
yeah, I mean, up to the people to decide what they want when they all present themselves before
we know
the
what
people.
They want. We know what they want. Everybody wants a good life. That's what they want. How?
Because all of them promise good life. All the candidates will promise you good life. They always do.
All the candidates, they have antecedents. You can measure who's able to do it because there's no guarantee. There may not be enough guarantee that tomorrow will be like today. But if you know today, you might be able to have a window into what tomorrow is likely to be.
You know, speaking about this process, Prof, quite a number of, much as yes, that they've seen the heard about the talk of beavers from the commission, lots of young people were optimistic, lots of people went out to register hoping that, well, if this were the case, then they think that their votes will count because it hasn't happened with general elections for us to know whether or not that will be the case. But there seems to be
one. That has been the case before.
For general elections.
Optimistic.
Yeah, we'll be optimistic, but it hasn't happened yet for general elections.
The election, the previous election before 2010, 2007
I'm talking about those who just went to register because they were told that the beavers will work and their votes will count.
And they believe that it's going to work.
Yeah, so that hasn't happened, so I can't say it has worked for them.
We've seen it before.
Not for general elections, Prof.
Yes, but this is the first time it's going to be different on a large scale.
That's what we're asking. How should we approach this? Because remember, when they had the smart card readers, INEC did that tests. So when they did the test, some areas were 70%, others were 40%. Then on the day proper itself, the areas that had 70% turned out to be 40 and 30. So those kind of things, we saw those things.
You see, it's a process. What I think is important is that if there are logistic challenges, if there are issues, and nobody is acting, it may appear to be deliberate. And secondly, we must make sure that if beavers is going to fail, let it fail randomly, not specific, so that you don't deploy those machines to an area of the opposition or in an area where people begin to have doubt as to whether this was a deliberate exercise.
And that's why they raise questions about collation of results, Prof. Because that is a big issue. This overnight collation of results, many are hoping that the introduction of deployment of beavers will address that. But collation will still happen at some level.
So at the ward.
Exactly. And then even Yeah, but
senatorial quotas as the
should we,
constituency.
because one key thing many hope, in fact they expected, they thought it was going to be the case this time, such that when those voting happens, you don't have to wait for that big general collation, such that once it happens at the ward level, you can almost know who is going to get it, but you have to wait still
no.
for collation.
That won't be right.
There still will be collation.
No, there will be final collation. For the presidential election, for example, is going to be in Abuja. But before then, people already know. You already know where the trend is going. Why? Because at the PU level, you know what the results are. They are posted. The scores are posted. At the ward level, it's the same thing. So you already have the figures. And as the figures are being disclosed, they are being transmitted simultaneously. So the man in Abuja, the chairman of INEC, and the people there, they already know. So it's not going to be anything new. So you see, the time, now when there was no technology, it is possible because you move results physically on papers. You could be waylaid, the result could be exchanged. This time around, as at the polling unit level, that's the key.
But not
one Supreme Court judgment says that elections are won and are determined at the PU. That is why every party going to this election must have enough resources to deploy party agents across the polling units. Then you secure your party agent compromises, you can't blame anybody. Make sure party agents being deployed, they're people that you have confidence in.
If it's going to be that simple and straightforward.
I'm not saying it's simple. What I'm saying is that at least at the PU level, every party is going to be represented. That is where votes are going to, where people are going to vote.
But the emphasis on the party agents.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we, because if you go out there, you vote, everything is uploaded smoothly, and the technology is there so that you can see the trajectory and where whatever is headed, why so much emphasis on party agents?
No, it's still good for your party agent to make sure. I will tell you why. Because of the level of illiteracy, rejected votes. And that, I think, is where parties should focus on. They're not talking about that, and it's a key issue. Rejected votes in this country, especially in some zones, they are phenomenal. Look, I can tell you, 2019, for example, the Southwest had about 19-point-something% of the total votes. Northwest had the largest. But the total number of votes cast by people in the Southwest is just about 6-point-something%, even though they had 19% registered voters. So that's one area, apathy, you need to drive out people to make sure they vote. Not only that, they must vote correctly. Why do you need party agents? In a very competitive election, one ballot, mistakenly thumb-printed or not rightly thumb-printed, can raise issues. In a polling unit where one party A had 19, party B had 19 as well. They have equal number of votes cast for them at that polling unit. There's this one ballot paper. You now need to determine whether that ballot paper should be that ballot should be counted or not, because it was wrongly thumb-printed. Should it be rejected?
That's where attitude again will come in.
No, it's voter education. And parties are not doing enough of voter education. They leave everything to INEC to do. They leave them to non-governmental organizations to do. That's where they should go and work.
Let me ask you about beavers. INEC has said that there's not going to be any use of incident forms. I believe that we introduced incident forms in 2015 alongside the smart card readers to ensure that if the smart card reader fails, there will be an incident form to report the issue, and it was supposed to be used more like just in case, like a backup plan. In this instance, INEC is saying there will be no incident forms at all. Again, given our attitude, you just talked about, voter education and the situation that can arise, and it's something that can cause tension. Do you think it is wise for us to say that there will be no incident forms, given our propensity to get, for tension to creep in, when there is a malfunction or when things are not going as planned with regards to the beavers?
Well, what I would suggest, I'm sure INEC is going to have its backup plans to accommodate instances that could not have been foreseen. But I think it's important to stress this. When the voters list is displayed, people should go and observe and be sure that their names are on the register. Because cases, incident form become necessary where, for example, your name is, you have your voter card, your name is not in the register. You know, it's a possibility. But that's why you need to raise objection. If you, for example, if you see a deceased person's name on the register and it's been displayed, you can go there as a party, as a serious party person, and raise issue with the EO or the displaying officer that this person's name ought to be. My name is not there, I have my card. What is wrong? This can be amended. But this should be prior election issues that we cannot go there on the day of the election and begin to complain that my name is there.
So people need to take the display.
Yeah, we should take, we had to take it very seriously. And I think INEC also can be more active in this, in providing enough education for people, because elections are if the voter register is displayed, no objection is raised, that's what's going to be used for, no amendment to it. It's going to be deployed on the day of the election. And if your name is not there, if many of your supporters, their names are not there, it will be too bad. And you see, it's administrative, their names can be omitted in bulk. But if you go there and challenge, definitely, and raise objection, then it probably can be taken care of. I think they're trying to, the human agency in election, and I think that's what technology is doing. You are reducing the involvement of human beings because they can wrongly deploy their discretion. Incident forms can be abused. Maybe that is why INEC, in its wisdom, is trying to remove that from the election process.
Well, the register is surely a big deal, but my colleague Ayo's got questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin from where, that conversation has gotten as far as BVAS. I recall the chairman of INEC making this comment, and I wish we could all see as well. He said, and I quote, "The most sensitive material for the commission now is the BVAS. The device is even more important than the ballot papers and results sheets. INEC takes charge of BVAS, and we won't entrust the devices to anyone." Given the logistics, the number of people that INEC is going to contract, so to speak, employ on ad hoc basis to do this job, what could be the reason for the chairman of INEC to say that we won't entrust the BVAS to anyone? Is there some vulnerability anywhere?
No, it's a key. BVAS ballot papers, your register had become key election infrastructure. It's like the live wire of the election. So for it to be entrusted into anybody's hand, will be taking a big risk. So it makes sense not to entrust. You can entrust. No, look, ballot papers, for example, they are regarded as sensitive documents. And that is why, as a security document, with all kinds of security features when printed. So you cannot allow just anybody to handle them. They must be trusted hands in INEC, whether as ad hoc staff or as permanent staff, that in whose custody those machines will be. So it makes sense to say that. But it's a key election infrastructure.
Well, the reason I asked that, Prof, is, we have had, top officials of INEC in various parts of the country indicted for some electoral malpractices, tampering with results and all of that. And how better could the trust level be if people at such levels couldn't be trusted? I'm just wondering what could be the reason for saying that. If how do we know who can be trusted? We can't write trust on the face. So I'm just wondering if there is any vulnerability. If it is given into the wrong hands, what makes it vulnerable? Especially because, as INEC has said over and over again, it is almost foolproof. Access to it can only be, gotten at INEC.
No, I think, Ayo, what is important is that if you entrusted 100 officials of INEC with a document, and you have instances where 1% of your trust was misplaced, you shouldn't bother about that. What you should get worried about is if the majority tends to misplace your trust. That's when you should get worried. Of course, there will be one or two people who will not use their discretion judiciously, and they will take decisions that are really unethical. So that shouldn't be a big challenge for us. You should always have that, and that's why there are sanctions. People make mistakes, they make silly judgment, they get penalized for it. That shouldn't stop INEC from still trusting. Oh, of course, a few people from the university that has to be returning officers, they made a mess of the job, and they were sanctioned, they were disciplined. What I think, what we should be communicating to the public is where the majority of the people entrusted with a particular sensitive document now misplace that trust, that is when INEC chairman and the commission should get worried. Where just a minority misplace the trust, I wouldn't be bothered. Of course, in any exam, some students will cheat, but not majority of the students. Look, the Professor Oloyede led administration in JAM, some staff entrusted with certain documents, some people were caught, but you look at the merit, the majority tendency is that the commission is not doing badly. If there are cases where people are entrusted with certain documents, misplaced the trust, were they sanctions, were they dealt with? And the answer is yes, they were dealt with. That's the important message.
Well, that's important, Prof, most certainly.
You cannot have a completely foolproof. Look, at your airport, people will sneak into the airport, they won't go into the hangar, they want to, So, but at the end of the day, were they apprehended by criminal officials? If the answer is yes, then there's no cause for alarm at all.
Okay. Well,
there are human beings who are reckless, who will behave recklessly, but they should, at least the hands of the law should deal with them.
Well, that's taken, Prof. You said earlier how important the 2023 elections, are. And so an error by INEC officials for a general election, a national election, so to speak, the results would have been declared, and the consequence of having to go back, perhaps to reconduct the elections and all of that. I think those are some of the concerns that come here. Yes, they will be arrested, the law is going to deal with them, but the consequence of their action may have gone quite far. So it raises the question then, Prof, in your opinion and from your experience, is there anything that needs to be adjusted, to be worked on, to be improved upon in the recruitment or engagement process of INEC ad hoc staff for general elections, especially the 2023 elections?
A good question. A good question. Yeah. You see, the dexterity of election officials, their professionalism is very important. What do I mean? Training the trainers. Of course, there's no way INEC can go around the country, but INEC can engage people, train them, and these people in turn will go to the grassroots and train people at the grassroots level, ad hoc staff. Fortunately, over the years, in 2010, INEC had accumulated national assets in terms of training resources invested in NYC members who are often used as ad hoc staff. So they already have their list. They can be recruited. They can be recruited at short notice. You don't need any elaborate training for them. But for beavers, the training, I think, must have been concluded by INEC now. It is ongoing. But I know the Electoral Institute of INEC, they take training of ad hoc staff very, very seriously. So I think with that training, there'll be skirmishes here and there. There'll be the possibility of manipulation. But what I think the Electoral Act as amended are taking good care of that, are taking good cognizance of that, in that what you are looking for is the majority. The person who had won in an election, will he have won even with all these skirmishes, electoral skirmishes here and there? If the answer is yes, of course. You don't, because of these minor imperfections here and there will always be imperfection in the affairs of human beings. What I think is important is that whether the person who had won in an election was the person who had, in the opinion of the majority of the people, had won that election. Look at Brazil. one candidate 50 point something, the other candidate 49 point something. It's a very narrow margin. And that is where perfection, dexterity, training must be factored in. Because you cannot afford to make mistakes at that level. So there will be issues with any election all over the world. There will be issues. What is important is the mindset that Amarachi referred to. If your mindset is good, you accommodate. You see, it's dynamic. You win this election, next election, you have lost in this election, you can win the next election. But that is not to say you have to throw out the baby with the bad water. Okay. No, we shouldn't lose hope. And I think I want to give credit to the political elites in this country. As turbulent as it is, they are holding the country together. As difficult as the environment is, in the midst of banditry, in the midst of all of this, I think we must not lose hope. We are building a nation. Okay. And in building a nation, you cannot expect but stumble here and there.
Okay. Well, Prof, we wished you a happy birthday earlier. And your birthday is exactly 115 days before the general election. And the first of them is the presidential and National Assembly elections, and the second, governorship and House of Assembly elections and the rest. So I just wanted to find out if there is if there is a reason why the governorship, well, the presidential elections and the national elections are coming ahead of the state elections, the governorship and House of Assembly elections. I mean, couldn't it have been? I just want to know if there is any reason for that.
They could have gone there's no way it goes that people will not raise issues. That's at the discretion. The Electoral Act is very clear. We cannot dictate, Nigerians cannot dictate to INEC. It's at the discretion of INEC to decide which election comes to. And I'm sure it has its reason for placing one election first and for the other. We'll come to it one day when all elections can be held on the same day. We'll soon get to that because of the bandwagon effect that one election have over the other. But I'm sure INEC has its good reasons for doing that.
Well, Prof, just one more thing from me before we take a break. There are those who have been wondering how they can confirm their names on the voter register. Part of what the law says is that people should be able to see their names, the voter register, on the website of INEC. And there are questions as to whether or not that has been done. We've tried to find out. We've not been able to see it. Do you see that as a problem? The fact that people can't see their names on a website for voters?
I think INEC had improved on this, the device. You can be in the comfort of your room and you can use your mobile phone, if it is Android, to check whether your name is in the register. Those who probably cannot check, from what I read in the papers, will be those in the continuous voter registration whose card are yet to be ready. Others, I think there shouldn't be much issues with finding out whether your name is there. What I think is that Nigerians, we don't go out there to know what government is doing. People obtain the cards, the voter card, just for other uses, not primarily for the purpose of election. I think for those who are interested voters, by now they should have known whether if their cards are ready, because INEC is complaining that people are not coming out to collect their cards. You know, people should go out there and collect their cards and take election more serious. We can't be lamenting all days. We can't be lamenting all year round that government is this, government is what we are. The majority of the elites, they won't go out there. Look at the voter turnout. No, less than 50% in most cases, less than 30%. In standalone elections, it can be as low as 29 or 28%. We should improve on this. It's a civic responsibility.
Well, Prof,
you know, the nation expects us to take elections very seriously because they determine the future, the direction where we are going, in terms of policy formulation and policy recommendation and policy implementation. We cannot be completely nonchalant about the future of our country.
It is interesting,
show more active interest.
Prof,
I even will advocate for more involvement
Yeah.
by every one of us.
It's interesting that you talk about the voter, apathy issue. But I'm pretty sure that that's one of the issues that my colleagues will want to take up with you, because there are concerning collection of voter cards. INEC needs to be upfront, because on the one hand, INEC is saying people aren't coming out to collect their voter cards, but there are those who go to the places where they're supposed to get their voter cards and they're not able to get them. We'll talk a little more on that when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Prof, just one last question from me. What, in your opinion, and from your experience, perhaps also from data, could be responsible for the voter apathy that you cited earlier just before the break? Because on the average, it would seem like the highest percentage of voters we've had over the years has been maybe 35% tops, even from 1999. So one wonders, what, in your opinion, is the reason for that? Is it a lack of trust in the system, or a lack of political education, or inadequate voter education?
You've answered the question, Sayo. You've posed the question, you already provided answers. I think a major reason, to me, is the complete disconnect between government or the state and citizenry. People have voted since 1999. They've been voting, trooping out in large numbers to vote. What they get in return is utter disappointment. And they will say to themselves, look, I'm going to wait on that. I could recall in one of the villages in Oyo State, where I monitored the election in 1 year, I think 2011. The villagers were in the sun, trying to, first of all, register to vote or doing accreditation, and it was on this very, very sunny day, very hot weather, and the queue was not moving. Some of them, in anger, they left the queue, and they said, look, you're just disturbing us. What is in this for us? What are we going to get at the end of the day? We still will drink well water where cows drink from, the pool of water, stagnant pool of water. So what are the benefits? That we're just assisting you people to legitimize your reign of terror. So why should we queue up? So they left in anger. So, and I think that's the general perception, that look, how is the local government impacting on my life? How is the state government impacting on my life? What is in it for me? I've become poorer and poorer since 1999, and you're asking me to come and just endorse you again. You will, in any case, you will do what you are used to doing. So that's, I think, is a great minus for our democratization project. Democracy should connect to the good life. Democracy should have meaning in the people's life, so that people just don't see going to the polls as a ritual. It must impact on people's lives. It's a great disincentive for
people to wind down on this, Prof. Some of the, because I think part of the objective or part of the essence of some of these is to make the elections as transparent as possible and believable as possible to a lot of people. And eliminating all of those questions where there are doubts will go a long way in ensuring that it shows up that belief that people will have in the system or the process. For instance, I mean, when you talk about the possible bandwagon effect that having a presidential election first will have on having perhaps governorship, National Assembly elections later, it's there. I mean, people have seen it before. They keep talking about it. So perhaps it may not be out of place to say, you know what, since it's technology, the presidential election, the governorship, National Assembly, have it on the same day. And then perhaps, yeah, for instance, if they had that on the same day, that will eliminate that bandwagon effect. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Certainly so, but I think we should tread gently and softly. You know, it used to be separate elections for all of them before.
Before the introduction of beavers.
Yes.
But there's beavers now.
Yes.
There isn't any much job to be done in terms of sorting. So everything is on the same day. Well, it's straightforward.
I wouldn't know what informed the decision, but definitely I know there might be technological limitations to doing all of this on the same day. But I think we're going to get there. We know people are also talking of electronic machine, so that at beavers, you are accredited and you can exercise your franchise. Yeah. Then maybe on the same day you can just thumbprint.
Yeah. Then they also suggest if they have the pictures of the presidential candidates alongside their party logo, would there be anything wrong with that, to give people more information and they know who we're voting for? Yeah.
I think party symbols are more easier to recognize than faces on the picture. You know, the Moku that I see now, if I were to see her in the photograph, might turn out to be...
But you know, some people confuse...
Some people might not even be able to...
Many will confuse the symbols, but when they see the face of the person they want to vote for, that helps them drive their point. So lots of people think that may be a good idea.
Some people might not have seen their presidential candidate before, but they will know the symbol of the party. They might not have, you know, talking of people in the remotest areas of the country, might not have seen the faces of the presidential candidate before.
There are so many logos,
and they might have challenges.
Too many logos.
But when let's be honest, between symbols and photographs can look alike. Symbols may never look alike for people.
No, you're not replacing one for the other, though.
I think what we need to do is intensify our voter education so that people will be able to identify. So the logo of the APC, the logo of PDP, the logo of Labour Party, the logo of AMPP or whatever, they are different. And
yeah, but for the presidential, it's key, it's crucial. So whatever can be done to ensure that people eliminate doubts.
You're talking of photographs.
There's nothing wrong with it. It won't cost us any expensive much money.
It's a lot of money again.
No, but how much money is that going to cost, Prof?
Okay.
Then in Kenya, for instance, you know, part of what they were contesting, I think the Raila Odinga was arguing that their law provides that there shouldn't be any unilateral announcement of the results. It has to be majority of the members of the commission who are there seated and voting. So when they unanimously agree that the result is truly valid, then the head of the commission can announce it. As opposed to, we just have a system where only the chairman of the commission can announce. So whatever they announce at that point in time is it. So if we adopt a system where it's a lot more democratized, you have a lot more people on the platform who say, well, we agree with this, majority of people vote, then you announce. What's wrong with that?
See, the danger in that is this. You are shifting the decision of the people to the court of INEC. INEC, I'm coming. Just a minute.
No, Prof. The results are already there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
It's just the announcement of the results.
All that the chairman is doing is not doing anything afresh.
Yeah.
It's not reinventing the wheel. All he's doing is just to announce these are the results collated from the field.
The same thing for the members. Yeah, if they all agree, they look through the process.
They will have met. They monitor elections. They monitor from Abuja. The National Commission, they are not in the field. It's only the chairman. The chairman sometimes, like for the court Jega, will go to some polling unit in this federal capital territory and return to the office just to be receiving complaints and to be resolving some of the challenges from the field. So at the end of the day, you can't, because it's like asking that the commissioners, you have 12 of them, plus the chairman making 13. It's like you're asking them to cast vote. That will be dangerous.
No, they're not voting in the manner of
they participate at every critical stage of the collation of the election. They're out there, seated. It's not in the public place.
So what would be wrong if they all say, for what we've seen, this collates or this, I think it corroborates.
If they disagree,
it corresponds with what we've seen.
Disagreement there. You know, don't forget, party agents it's a full all.
No, but Prof, the law doesn't recognize their voice if they disagree.
No, but
our law doesn't recognize
the chairman is the returning officer for the presidential election. You cannot have 2, 3 returning officers for the governorship. You know, you appoint somebody to be the returning. They cannot be contesting who's going to do this.
Well, we won't be the first country to do it, Prof.
No,
Other countries do it.
No,
which you just
I want
cited.
to see what are the demerits, what is wrong with the current thing we are running. Don't let us add to the challenges we have.
No, it's further democratizing the process. It's a democracy.
They don't see it in secret.
As opposed to putting so much weight on the shoulder of the chairman of the commission, assuming politicians want to manipulate him, they can target him. But if they know that, well, there has to be a process. In the judiciary, don't we see it? There's a majority judgment, there's a minority judgment. So that's the same thing.
I'm
it's a
asking
similar
you,
process.
what is wrong in because the current system is very aching. It's very similar to what you are advocating now. Or from what I know, when returns begin, when people are bringing the returns are coming from the field, when results are coming from the field, especially at the state level, they are collated openly.
I get your point, Prof.
Yes.
But the same thing is done at the election stage, where after the vote, the party agents or the polling agents, party agents, pardon me, are supposed to look at the result and say, yes, this is what we've seen. They all participate, but the commission says, the law says they also have to have a say in saying, look, these results correspond with what you've seen, yes or no. The law provides for that. So why can't we have the same thing at the highest level?
No, I honestly, I cannot see any additional value that is going to make, honestly, because from what I know, it's an open thing. It's very open. Everybody will be there, the commissioners will be there, observers will be there. It's not possible for the chairman to do anything. And if results stop coming in, they adjourn. And every commissioner will go to the office, then reassemble again. I don't see what value will be added
Prof,
from the current practice.
Okay, we need to go, but I also know
there might be occasions when there will be disagreement. That is in a very tight election. Maybe that may work, that may become an issue when elections are very tight. When now it's like the commission had to pass a judgment.
But there's only one person whose voice will be heard, and that's that of the chairman.
Can you hear
at the moment,
voices of two
from our
people?
law.
The chairman is not, it's the commission. Whatever he does, he's doing it in the name of the commission. There's nowhere where the chairman is referred to, except as the returning officer for the presidential election.
All right, Prof, we need to wrap up at this time. We do thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning. Professor Lai Olorode is former National Commissioner with INEC. Thank you very much, and happy birthday again, and we wish you all the best.
No, really, no happiness in my birthday. You know, I went into the university 1981 with the exit of late Professor Adi Ajayi, who was then the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, was booted out by the military. I'm taking my exit at a point after over 40 years of teaching, you know, to the best of my knowledge, the university system has not changed.
Oh dear.
We are being owed salaries, there are no facilities in the university, 40 years of lamentation. That's why I'm not happy taking my exit, but of course I have to leave.
Clearly food for thought.
Attain the age of 70.
Clearly food for thought, but all the same, we do thank you for your
Thank you, I
service
appreciate it.
as well. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.